This video is sponsored by Merrick Health. This is a receipt in real life, while this is a receipt in WWE. So what is a receipt in pro wrestling? Well, sometimes you might hit your opponent a bit too hard. All a receipt is your opponent giving you a little bit of payback, or a lot of payback. During my time in the WWE, I received my fair share of receipts. So this video is going to be ranking them from least painful to the ones I'm still feeling today. My first receipt would come very early in my WWE career. In fact, it was match 1 with Taz, one of the guys who trained me, so I knew him well. So I should have known that when I caught him with a slap to the face, that was probably a little more mustard than I should have put on it. I knew it was coming back to me. And how did I know? Well, Taz had a way of telling me. He kind of patted me, letting me know I was going to get it back. That receipt would come in the form of an open hand slap and actually would bust my eardrum. The first of 3 times I would bust my eardrum while in the business. It's a weird feeling. You lose a little bit of hearing for about a week or 2. It doesn't really ring or anything. I would just have to make sure that I placed people on the correct side when they talked, because for a week or so, I couldn't hear them. There are certain guidelines and codes that you know about when you get into this business. One of them is, if you tag somebody, they're gonna tag you back. Sometimes the worst part about it is knowing a receipt is coming and just not knowing when you're gonna get it. Fortunately for me, after I slapped Taz, he didn't make me wait too long. We got backstage and he made sure I knew, hey, if I was stiff, hey, if I was stiff with you out there, there's a reason. This was Taz following orders. Taz was given specific instructions from the higher ups, from the office, to make the kid earn it, make me pay my dues. And I'm fine with it. Our business, and I've said it a lot, and I know a lot of people don't like this, but our business is not ballet. Our business is not an easy business. And if you're not ready for the physicality that this business has, it's not the business for you. While this was my first receipt, it most definitely would not be my last, and certainly wasn't the most painful receipt. It was an introduction of what my life would become in the WWE. My second receipt would be more in the form of paying dues and would be my 4th televised match. I had my 3 matches with Taz, and a short time after, I found myself in the ring with Hall of Famer, good buddy of mine today, Booker T. And just like Taz, Booker was tasked, Booker was told from the higher ups, help the kid pay his dues. Booker did me a favor the same way Taz did me a favor. Booker is the guy who you're gonna know you were in the ring with him, and it's not because he's dangerous, not at all. Booker's aggressive. I appreciate that. He would help me raise my aggression level. He would help show me, if you want to be at this level, this is how you have to bring it. This is what you have to harness, and this is what you have to bring out of yourself to suspend all the fans' disbelief, to make you think that we're actually in a real fight, to make you think we're actually in a competitive, aggressive style match. Whether it be the first body slam he gave me, or the slap in the middle of the match, or the Alabama slam he finished the match with, I knew I wasn't getting a massage. And even though I left the match a little worse for wear, it would not be the worst receipt or due paying that I would experience. There were way worse to come. Now, my next receipt was a little bit more painful than my previous ones, but it gave me a valuable lesson, a lesson that I would take with me, and actually a lesson that I instill in others to this day. This receipt would come around 2003, about 2 years into my wrestling career, and would come courtesy of Test. I would find myself on a loop in the Pacific Northwest with Test. And during singles competition, I made a mistake that at some point every wrestler makes during their careers, but it's a big no-no. And it's a no-no because it tells everybody watching that what we're doing is predetermined. About midway through the match, we both would find ourselves trying to duck the same clothesline. And if you've ever seen two wrestlers trying to duck a clothesline, it looks ridiculous. Once we botched the spot, I immediately made the mistake of trying to go right back to it instead of doing something else, telling all the fans that we botched a move. This is a no-no. This tells everybody that what we're doing is predetermined. Test immediately cuts me off, did exactly what he should have. And in fact, while he cut me off rather hard, and as I'm down, he told me, he gave me the lesson right then and there. If you miss something, don't go back to it immediately. Cut somebody off, grab a hold, do something. Control yourself, gather yourselves, try to go to it later if it's that important. I remember when he cut me off with a very hard clothesline, a harder than normal clothesline from Test. And once we got backstage, he told me exactly why he cut me off a little stiffer than normal. And I thanked him because I don't think I would ever make that mistake again. At no point did I ever miss or not get a spot right and then immediately try to go back towards it. You try to do something else. Do something that gets you to where you need to be, but something that doesn't let the fans know that we messed up. Because trust me, if they see you try to do something, it doesn't go right, and then you immediately try to go do it again, they're gonna be like, they're just calling spots out there. And that's the last thing you want. Even though I learned a valuable lesson from that last receipt, it still hurt. You know what? They all do. I'm still feeling them to this day, which is why I partnered with today's video sponsor, Merrick Health. On a personal note, the older I get, I find I need more information to live a healthier lifestyle. In fact, I wish I had this information in my 20s. So what does Merrick Health offer? The most comprehensive, affordable, and easy to access blood testing available.
Before Merrick, getting hormone and health tests like testosterone or lipid panels meant negotiating with your doctor and hoping that insurance would cover it. But with Merrick, you can easily order these labs yourself and take control of your own health. Merrick Health provides lifestyle interventions, over-the-counter supplements, and prescription treatment options such as testosterone replacement therapy and sexual enhancement.
But what really sold me on Merrick was from my very first call. They personalized every aspect of my journey and ensured me that someone would be with me for every step along the way. I teamed up with Merrick Health to offer a turnkey optimization package designed for those driven to maximize performance and to support longevity with the most elaborative testing available on the market. To get the exact same panel and medical oversight, click the link in the video description, merrickhealth.com/Maven, and use code Maven to save 10% at checkout. So visit Merrick Health and join me in living a longer, healthier life. My next painful receipt was a receipt in its truest form on a live airing of Monday Night Raw. I find myself backstage doing a live interview and rude Batista interrupts me, comes right on my set, and I slap the big fella. And when I say slap, yeah, I slapped him. I knocked the hell out of him. And off to the ring I went. And as I was going to the ring, I remember Dave and I would meet before we went live, and he told me, when you slap me, you're gonna have to bring it. And I would quickly find out that euphoria's potential becomes reality's burden. Because after I slapped him and I make my way out to that ring, then I have to realize I'm in the ring with the animal. I'm in the ring with a guy who is known for aggression. And midway through the match, I would find myself on the outside with the animal. As he threw me up on the ring apron with my back towards the ropes, he would rear back and give me what would be a clothesline, other than the fact that I couldn't take the back bump. And when he hit me, he hits me in the chest, and I literally felt like someone reared back and hit me with a baseball bat. That's how much force this man carried, and that's how much force he brought through that night. But I guarantee you, he put a little bit more on that clothesline, and that's because I brought a little bit extra with that slap earlier in the night. Next on my list isn't necessarily as much a receipt as it is properly paying dues. And for anyone that entered the business during my time, if you made it through this man, you earned your stripes. You earned your respect in the back locker room. I'm, of course, talking about my time working with Bob Holly. Now, what made Bob the perfect person to help a young wrestler pay their dues is the fact that he would bring it every night. Bob does not know the definition of taking a night off, taking a second off in the match. And as much as he's going to bring it to you, the best thing about Bob is he wants you to give it to him the exact same in return. But why is this so high on my list? One reason is because I had to endure this for weeks on the road working Bob at non-televised events, night after night after night. Working with Bob 3 to 4 nights a week will definitely take its toll on your body, but I would have it no other way. I felt like I had accomplished something. The moment I got his respect, the moment I had him tell me I was doing a good job, I knew I had accomplished something, because you're not going to find many men in this business, hell, on this planet, who are tougher than Bob. The moves I specifically remember from Bob were his chops, obviously his Alabama slam, but most of all, it was his clothesline. Bob would run through you, and like I've taught you, a true clothesline is a tackle, chest to chest, take the bump. Well, when you run into Bob, it was like running into a truck that was going to go through you, a truck you were not going to be able to stop. I felt it every time, and I had no problem taking that bump and taking it crisp, because Bob was going to ensure that he was going through me night after night. Now, what could be more painful than being in the ring week after week with Bob Holly, earning your stripes? Well, how about what happened in the 2002 Royal Rumble? I know you all know about my elimination of The Undertaker. That was the highlight. What would happen right after? Not so glamorous, and was definitely a part of me paying my dues. Now, following my elimination of The Undertaker, I find myself on the outside fighting with the dead man, and the spot actually called for a chair shot. No one knew it was going to be a chair shot that was heard all around Atlanta that night, and one I still see in my dreams to this day. Now, you all just saw the chair shot that I took from Gene Snitsky. What makes this one worse? Simple. When I took the shot from Snitsky, I had years in the business. I had a callus built up. I knew what pain was. I had taken chair shots before. When I found myself in the ring with the dead man, or on the outside of the apron, I had no idea what to expect. I had no idea what it was going to feel like, but I would soon find out. What I remember following that shot is the stinging feeling that coursed all through my body down to my toes as I laid there. Again, I had never done anything like this. Everything went quiet for a second, and I still remember the oohs and ahs from everybody once they saw what Taker did. Now, the pain didn't last long, maybe 2 to 3 seconds, but I do remember for a few days my top of my head hurting a little bit to the touch. And rest assured, Taker took complete care of me throughout the rest of our feud, but he still had to make me pay my dues. He still had to help me earned my keep. And the good news is that chair shot had no long-term effects. That chair shot had no long-term effects. And what's crazy is I would receive the most painful receipt of my WWE career only 8 days following my infamous run-in with the Dead Man. On Monday Night Raw, I found myself in an undisputed championship match against champion Chris Jericho. Now, the finish of the match called for the walls of Jericho. I had never been placed in the walls. I had no clue what the walls felt like. I obviously have seen him put this move on other competitors, but you don't know how something feels until it happens to you. I would learn this lesson that night. Now, the best way to describe what the walls feels like for those of you who will never be a wrestler is imagine, and I know you've all jammed or bent your finger back, and you get it to the place to where it won't go any further. Well, that's what the walls felt like that night, as I saw my boots from an angle I've never seen them before. Chris locks it in and goes back to a specific point. A point he probably does with other guys. And then from that position, he sat back a little bit further. And I'm sure it was to teach me a lesson. But you can see on my face as I tap out, I completely am done. And that's not an act. That's not me selling. That is sheer pain. That is the most pain I was ever in that ring. I still can remember it. And I remember my body going to a point to where I didn't think it could bend anymore. And right when I thought that, Chris bent it a little bit more. And to add insult to injury, Chris made sure that he kept it locked in even after the bell had rang, just to help me pay my dues a little bit more. But maybe that's just how Chris is. Maybe he puts it in that tight for everyone. Nah. 3 years later, I would wrestle Chris again, and by this time I was no longer just a tough enough kid. I had successfully paid some dues at this point, and again, I would lose to Jericho, and again, I would lose from the walls of Jericho. And this time, he didn't put it in near as tight as he did the first time. And I remember getting backstage. I didn't tell him prior to the match because I didn't want him to try to even put it in tighter than he did the first time. But once we got backstage after the match was over, I did tell him that first match, yeah, I'm glad this one didn't resemble that one. And in true Chris form, he grinned at me. Just to tell me, yeah, of course, kid, I got him. I have to make you earn it, kid. And he laughed and walked on. Chris did me a favor that night. All these lessons that I had to learn made me better at what I did. And I'm grateful to everyone who not only helped me pay my dues, but who gave me receipts when they were warranted. Now, was there ever a time I had to give someone a receipt? Yes. And to see that story, watch the video on screen.